Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Mission Critical. Make sure to hit like below and subscribe for more updates from our show. Let's get into it. Hi, April.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
I haven't seen you in so long. I feel like it's been such a long time, but every time I talk with you, in our DMs or texting or whatever, it just feels like we're just catching up where we left off.
No time has passed. Yeah, definitely.
And fellow Albertans too, here in Toronto.
In the snow, who would have thought that there'd be more snow here than at home?
It's a weird world that we're in right now, but I'm so glad to have you in our studio on the show because it's been a long time coming. I've wanted to have you on the show and also wanted to have you in person because I know that, just the passion that you have behind the company and behind the work that you're doing. It's just amazing. So
I'm way cooler in person too, I think.
Well, you're pretty cool. So I want to start off, for listeners who are meeting you for the first time.
Yeah.
Who is April Hicke and what problem are you really kind of determined to solve when you founded Toast?
Totally. Hickey.
Hickey. April Hickey.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noted.
Now we got it. It's okay. It's a terrible last name. I tell my husband all the time it's an awful last name. Who is April Hicke? I like to call myself often a recovering corporate ladder climber. I really thought I had found my place in corporate and wanted to just become partner somewhere and kind of get comfortable. However, I was born with this love for confrontation and calling things out, which didn't always suit me well in corporate. I love to point out problems or inequities. And so I found myself, in a position coming back from my second mat leave where my co-founder at the time and I were having lots of conversations on similar problems that we were seeing at work where, we know that the workplaces are not built for women. They're not built for moms. They're definitely not built for women of color. And we both struggled with similar issues when trying to hire. And my co-founder in particular was trying to hire for her team, which was a very AI-driven team. And the business had handed her, she got about 400 job applications and 2 of them were women. And when she went back and was like, I need a balanced data set. In order to make a decision, you got to give me gender parity in this candidate pool. And the business just didn't see it as a business problem. They were like, well, women aren't applying, so sorry.
Pipeline
problem. Sorry, I don't know. And so, her and I had a lot of conversations on how we both, when hiring for our teams, would go out into our networks and tap women on the shoulder and be like, come apply, come for these jobs. And, we know that the research that shows that women wait until they hit 10 out of 10 things on a job description before they would apply for the job. And men will apply if they only hit 4 out of 10, right? And so Toast, the idea for Toast was born at that time. So now we have a tech platform where we help over 125 clients across Canada and the US hire women onto their teams.
Incredible.
It's been really cool. On top of that,
I remember when you started the company.
I know. And I think
about
you were one of the first people to recognize what we were doing was different because you put us in the champions of change issue, which was really, really cool because we were doing something new and different and very gritty at the time. So thank you for seeing it.
And you proved your thesis.
Yeah.
And you're continuing to build on that.
Yeah. And that's what I keep saying. People have asked about the level of success that we've had. And, why do we feel that we've been so successful? And I do think as we found product market fit, we were, the right people to solve the problem. And it was obviously a problem worth solving.
Yeah. And are you focusing on a specific sector like tech or, the cultural communities or business, or just across the board helping companies?
Yeah. When we launched, it was very tech focused and because both of us were in roles at the time that were very technical. However, I believe right now tech is industry agnostic. Every company from transportation to HR, there is a level of tech, whether you're doing procurement or supply chain, there's tech everywhere. And so we work with non-technical companies. We have sports teams. We have NHL and MLB teams that are under there. So non-technical companies that are maybe hiring for technical roles or even technical companies that are hiring for non-technical. So kind of all over the map.
What company nowadays, it doesn't have some sort of tech integrated into their...
Absolutely. And also what company is really not focused on that aspect of their talent strategy? Because if you are building something for everyone, the team that builds that should reflect the community that you serve.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
If we fast forward to, let's say, the end of 2026, and we're just at the front end here. It's been a long month
I
already.
feel like
it feels like
I keep thinking, oh my gosh, it's 2026 already. I don't know why I'm stuck in 2025.
But if we fast forward to the end of the month, or let's say if we fast forward to this time next year,
Okay.
what does success actually look like for you, and what would failure look like if things weren't changing? Like what's your perspective on those things?
Yeah, I mean, I think success and failure are both subjective, obviously. Success to me looks like having an impact, and I measure my own level of success on the impact that I can have on the community and the people around me. Sounds very cliche, but when I did the Brene Brown's values exercise, that making a difference was one of my core values alongside hope. And so I think we continue to do so. I can't see a world where we don't continue to have the impact that we have. Even in small ways, there's stories that I don't even know that are out there. I was here last night. I came in yesterday early just so I could catch a concert last night that I really wanted to see.
I saw that on your Instagram.
Yeah. I was so excited. I bought a singular ticket. I sat there and cried in row 5. It was amazing. But the woman sitting beside me, we were kind of chatting before, she knew Toast. And she had been to one of our events before and was sharing with me how she had met this other woman there who then introduced her, and she was doing a job interview now because of someone that she met at our event in November. And so the music started, and I got very emotional last night thinking about the impact that we're able to have that I don't even know about. I didn't even know. The ripple effects of what we've done. So I think this year, the things that we're focusing on from a business perspective is we have heavily, obviously, focused on B2C. I think that there's a lot of ways that we can leverage the data we have to help companies that maybe don't just want to use us for recruiting. So maybe in terms of their talent strategy and aggregating the data that they've already gathered in terms of, how they're growing or attrition or where people are dropping off in the pipeline when they're hiring people. And so it's a little sneak peek at a tech tool that we're working on building this year, which will be really great. Yeah, I'm really excited for it.
When I was researching the company, Toast has helped women secure more than 10 million in cumulative salary increases. Why did you decide early on to measure success through dollars secured, not just in terms of placements or participation?
Yes, we actually are at 25 million.
25.
Now.
Oh, amazing.
I know we haven't announced that yet.
Okay.
We
Incredible.
are just in the middle of our impact report, but
wow.
25 million. Yeah,
more
since we started. Yeah, which is fantastic. I think it's an interesting place where we are because we are a social enterprise. And so that balance of purpose and profit is constantly in my brain. And I think at the end of the day, we still live in this capitalist society that we do need to measure this, and the economic impact of women in general is so often overlooked. And so I think, highlighting this $25 million that we've been able to increase women's salaries, whether by placements, upskilling, and then continuing through their community, I think it's a big show of the change that can be driven by when you actually invest in women.
What are some of the most common kind of questions that you get from the companies that are approaching you to help them out? Their intentions might be good, but they're I just don't know how to even start.
Yeah. It's funny because they often come with what percentage of their company currently is women, and they're often very ashamed. They'll be only 7% of our team, and I'm like, no, that's good. Industry average is 11, so you're kind of where it is. Specifically, if you look at tech, it's interesting though because we only represent between 11 and 22% of the industry, depending on what province you're in, unfortunately. But a lot of companies are often how do we attract women with job descriptions? How do we write job descriptions that are more attractive to women so that they actually apply, so the candidate pool does reflect their community? Also, how do we offer, learning and development opportunities? What are women looking for in jobs? Specifically, a lot of companies will come to us and maybe they already don't have women on the team. And so they worry about how do you attract that very first woman? How do you create that space for them? And we used to have these metrics where it's we would only work with someone. This was, when we first started out, maybe we'll only work with someone if they already have, 3 women leaders on their team. But everyone has to start somewhere. Yeah. And we have to meet someone to bring them along on the journey, right? And it's not always, I understand it's not the job of the underrepresented group to educate everyone else, but if we don't create spaces for them to come and ask us questions, then obviously we're never going to see any change. Yeah.
I love that. And so do you have any kind of anecdotal stories that have been kind of success stories that just really kind of have revalidated or validated everything that you kind of initially set out to do?
Yeah, I've got a couple. We had a really good start this week, which I was excited about. I think twofold. And I don't know if you ever listened to my TED Talk, but my TED is very much about, not putting people in a box. And we do this in our day-to-day life all the time. But we just recently had a company that was hiring for a marketing and events role. And we took it all the way to the end. There were 2 candidates. They offered to one. And that woman, unfortunately, had 2 offers, and she didn't take the one with our client. And the CEO was like, I don't want the number 2 person. Let's start from scratch.
Okay.
And I was like, cool. Great. But then I thought about a candidate that I knew who had recently pivoted, who was actually in law for a number of years, almost 15 years, and had recently taken like a digital marketing certificate, did have event experience on the side. She had kind of dabbled in wedding event planning and stuff. And so I called the CEO and I was like, listen, I know a candidate. We're starting from scratch. That's fine. I know a candidate. I want you to think a bit outside of the box. They do not hit the job qualifications that you're asking for. However, I think they have potential and they have grit. And he was like, okay, let me meet her. He met her and was like, great, throw her in the process. She went in with other candidates who did meet all the qualifications, and she got all the way to the end. She got the job. She actually started last week on Monday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a very recent example.
It's so, I know, and I was talking about it last week at work, because I'm like, this is exactly what we need. We need hiring managers not to just think in these tunnel vision ways, to be like, I need this person who's done this 5 times and, has done these things, because people have potential to pivot and change. And we live in this like ever-changing world as well, where people are reevaluating who they are and what they want to do for work. And so that's a big one for me. Another
also
one,
like a diverse skill set.
Oh,
even if you're not necessarily on paper what a job is asking for, you bring in skill sets from other experiences, and that could actually maybe help you solve problems even better than someone that's only had that experience.
Well, and if we keep hiring the same person over and over, you're not going to get an innovation. Yeah. You're not. Without diversity, you're not going to get innovation, because you need people with a different background and thought and way to solve problems. And that comes with, because when we think about diversity, obviously we initially we think of race and gender and sexual orientation, but really what we want is a diversity of background and thought and life experience, which comes with all these intersectionalities, right? Yeah. And I think for our clients, on the flip side, we have a client who's a trucking company. I like talking, and my own bias, when they first came in, I was like, F no, absolutely not. I would never place a woman in a trucking company. We're not working with them. No. Right. And they were inbound. And I remember getting into the meeting, and they're the nicest dads, Lance. They are the kindest. Not only do they have 100% mat leave top up for all women on their team, they have this massive learning and development bonus. They already have gender parity on their tech teams, but they just can't attract women. Yeah. So we're able to put this client in front of a new set of audience. And now we've placed 3 women with them who they have huge retention. Nobody's left since we placed them. I know. Yeah. And so, yes, we help women get jobs that maybe they may not have seen, but we're also helping clients get in front of different candidates that would never, because I don't know about you, but if I saw a job posting at a trucking company, I would not apply. I would not apply.
Just on first impression.
Oh, and it's our own bias. Yeah. Right? And we all carry these biases, obviously.
It's systemic sometimes too.
Yeah.
How do you find that the conversation has changed from both ends, like from the talent side, but as well as like an employer side, around the work that you're doing compared to when you first started out or even before that?
Huge. I mean, obviously with the administration changing in the South, it has been it's interesting. One of our hugest clients are a massive multinational enterprise. And I sat down recently with one of their executives, and I was like, oh God, they're going to fire us, because they operate out of the US a lot too. Right. And he said to me, April, even if people are saying that they don't care about D&I, they still care about D&I. It's changed now where we're chatting more about talent strategy, and so the words that we're using, but the people who actually genuinely care about building things in the right way are still focusing on what their teams look like. Yeah. Even if they're removing it from their page. But I will say our hate mail has increased. It really has.
Do you see that as a sign that you're doing the right thing?
Yeah. There's days where there's days.
I feel like I remember you posting that on Instagram at one point. I was like,
I know.
Wild.
We and maybe you saw this last week because at my birthday party I was reading some of my hate mail to my dinner party and to the girls, and someone was recording me going, only April reads her hate mail at her birthday party.
Yeah.
But it's honestly, it's typically men who feel very disadvantaged by the work that we're doing. And so for anyone operating in a system that typically they've benefited from that system, equity feels like oppression to them, right?
Yeah.
And so
when really it's just leveling.
it's just equity. It's just everyone is getting
novel thing.
I know. It's very, but our hate mail has increased. We had a man recently apply to a role, and at my lawyer's suggestion, we do automatic declines if someone we asked, do you identify as a man or a woman, or prefer not to answer. And if they do select men, because clients pay us and hire us specifically to add women. So they got an auto decline. And this man replied and said, I suggest you look again. And I was like, wow, if only we had women who would.
Wild.
I know. And then we ignored the email because I was like, okay, Kenny, we're not going to look again. And he emailed again and he said, the posting is still up. Has your team not reviewed my credentials? Here are all the things I've done in my life and all the places that I've worked. And so I wrote the feistiest email back to him. And I was like, if you've worked at all those places, I suggest that you leverage the extensive network, which you just told me you had, to help you. And also a little piece of advice, if you're going to apply to a company, you should do a little bit of research on that company, because if you had done such research, you would know that we represent women.
And the thesis,
Yeah, and I was like, actually, if you do identify as a woman, please let me know, and I'd be happy to submit you as a strong woman candidate. He didn't reply to me.
But going back to your point about corporations and companies, especially, our neighbors down to the south, and this conversation around DEI. Yeah. We had an interview last year around whether or not DEI programs are dead. And it was really a really interesting interview because she also works with a lot of international companies. And her perspective was that, despite all the political rhetoric and everything, companies are still driving those programs forward, but it's just the PR, I guess, and the language that's used.
Correct.
Because it is so politicized and it is so charged that it's just the language that they're using. But the fundamentals of those programs are still being implemented, which is, thank God, because... but also there's just a business case for these things,
but it's also just, there is a business case, but it's also just being a good human, too, at the end of the day. And I think we're losing a lot of humanity and empathy. And I know you and I could go on a tangent around this. We really could.
That's a whole other interview.
Yeah, that's another whole episode. But I do think... I agree with that one. I haven't heard that episode. You have to send that one to me.
Yeah,
but when people have asked me that, do you feel that D&I is dead? I'm like, well, my inbox is telling me the opposite, because we still have a lot of inbound and we still have people that genuinely care to ensure, again, like I just mentioned, you don't have innovation without diversity. If you keep hiring the exact same white guy from University of Waterloo, what are the chances that one of them is going to come up with a different way to solve a problem? Very low. Whereas if you hire people from different backgrounds, different life experiences, or different genders, whatever that looks like.
It feels very simple.
Yes, it really does.
It's so complicated for people to understand.
I know. And it is funny because we are actually the only company that does what we do.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. There's been a long history and a systemic kind of culture of, employers and people telling women to be more confident or negotiate harder or to lean in. Why do you think that specific kind of framing is maybe outdated for the culture that we're in, or maybe just not as effective in terms of where we're at as a society and how we want to attract talent and how we want to also bolster women in getting these incredible job opportunities? Yeah,
I think women, obviously, we typically are not, I wouldn't even say confident, we're just more risk adverse. But a lot of that narrative was very patriarchal, right? And I mean, we're recognizing this white capitalist patriarchal society that we live in, and that it's not really working for everyone anymore. And so, the way that we encourage women, and even with negotiations or confidence, I think these are just skills that we just have to get used to. But any woman who's a millennial of my era, we were taught to make yourself smaller and not take up too much space and not have a strong voice. And I was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 8. I was very loud and very disruptive in school. And school was really hard for me for that because I was constantly felt like I couldn't fit in the world. And so we've got this new narrative, which I think is really destabilizing for some women, where it's like, oh, I was taught my whole life to be small and be kind and like smile and be pretty. And now I'm told it's okay to be loud and be confident and get what you want. And so I think there's still women who are kind of breaking out of that.
Yeah.
But what we really want out of women is authenticity, right? The space to just be you, to be you and be celebrated. Like, what is your core story? What are the skills that you bring that no one else has? And like, how do you add these things and bring that to the job hunt? And that's kind of where we're at with Toast, is just helping women be themselves and feel comfortable and included in whatever space that they're in.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like there's very similar themes with, just communities of color too, where, again, told to not make a fuss.
Don't disrupt.
Yeah, don't disrupt. Code switch, depending on what kind of scenario you're in, and just blend in. And now the conversation, being to just people being emboldened and communities feeling emboldened to just be themselves and just be authentic. Yeah.
Be you. Yeah. And the right people in the right places and everything will, because I also think there's this outdated narrative that you have to be extroverted and loud and very strong and bossy to be a leader. And some of the best leaders I've ever met are very introverted as well. And so I think
and listeners.
Exactly. So pushing these women to be like, be loud, go after what you want. And some women are like, I don't want to, that's not who I am. Right. Yeah. And so I think we just need to allow women to be who they want to be. That's the point of feminism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Toast as a platform, you utilize and harness a lot of technology, obviously, and AI to really help drive matching. And so where does technology, in your experience, really help to reduce bias, and where do you find that it can sometimes help reinforce that sometimes too?
Yeah, I was going to say it doesn't really help with bias. That bias is in a lot of trained data sets already. And so I think, we've seen companies lean one of two ways, where they're doubling down on AI and technology. And then there's other companies that are recognizing that this like hyper technical world we live in has a little AI bubble that's going to burst soon, and we're going to be doubling down on human connection and communities. Yeah,
I'm seeing a lot of those conversations.
A lot of that, and I'm seeing that in companies as well. And so I think the way that we are now leveraging tech within Toast is more so in terms of like automating very menial tasks, and we are actually taking on a lot more of that human connection and becoming a talent partner for our clients, and relying less on that matching to be done by technology and more so on us. And we're actually seeing a way higher success rate in terms of like long-term retention. And even that example that I used with that gal that was very out of the box in terms of being a hire that way. And I think that that's the way we're going to continue to lean. I think you have to go one way or the other. And I think we're doubling down on human connection.
Return to human.
Yep. And just getting really, really deep relationships with our clients, deep with our candidates. There's a lot of things that we can do. We did just release a chatbot that's coming out next week. Her name is Rolly.
Okay.
And she is trained on all of our recruiters' data. And so Rolly's going to be able to help you if you have questions on an interview or negotiations or anything of the sort. We have Rolly that's rolling out next week on our platform. So I think there's like room for both. But at Toast specifically, we are going to be rooted in human connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love to hear that. Shifting focus to also just your own personal story, you've had an incredible journey and just building up the company, but also everything that it took to get you to that point. Your personal story includes dropping out of high school, teenage homelessness, addiction recovery. How do you think those experiences have shaped the way that you lead today?
I mean, I definitely think adversity creates a lot more empathy, for sure. There were days where I used to be like, man, I just wish I was born into a wealthy family. And like things were a lot. So much easier. Yeah, it would be so much easier. But I don't regret, and I don't resent any of those experiences. I think that the level, who I am today, and the way that I show up and navigate and walk around this world, even in ways, and the things that I do that I don't talk about and nobody sees, and just the way that I try and give back to my community, and the things, all of these are shaped by that adversity and those hardships that I faced when I was younger. And I think it's what continues my work, even in wanting Toast. And I have a lot of conversations with my team. Like, yes, obviously we want to make money. Obviously we want to hire more people and grow and scale, but also we need to ensure that we are really serving the audience that we're serving. And I think I bring a really human aspect to my leadership as well. I always ask my team, whenever I hire someone, I always want to know what their love language is, just so I know how to give them, like, some people are acts of service, some people like want feedback. And when I share that with other leaders, sometimes people are really surprised, like, oh, I never thought about, I'm like, but it's still a relationship. Your employees it's still a relationship. And so I think, overcoming everything, because I really shouldn't be here right now. It's a 0.002% chance that I'd be sitting where I am today in terms of like the amount of children that go through foster care and then end up getting a master's level education, or women founders ever hitting $1 million in revenue, or being 11 years sober, like all of those things.
Stats around,
everything combined means that I shouldn't be here right now. And that gives me just this overwhelming level of gratitude for my life and the things that I get to do every day. And I think I have an immense privilege in that I wake up every day and I do a job that I love, and I get to build my own schedule and spend time with my kids and like genuinely enjoy going to work every day, which is good.
Mm-hmm. What's been like a point in the history of and the trajectory of the company that has really stood out to you as like, wow, like that's something amazing that has happened?
Hitting $1 million was like, and doing that, totally. And doing that in, 2 years while resisting any venture capital, bootstrapping our way to $1 million was like wild. Also, some of the cool things is like being featured in Forbes twice. Like, and my kids still don't think I'm cool though, Lance. Like, my oldest is 14 and I'm like, look, I'm in Forbes. He's like, I don't know what that is. He's like, I don't care. I don't care, Mom. But I think, that was really, really big for me, I think, to be able to see. It was, again, market validation that, like, what we're doing is great. I think also putting our first employees on payroll was such a big...
switch over.
See people, I'm like, oh, God, people's mortgages rely on us now being able to do this. But so along the way, it's like those small little things that I look back and I'm like, oh, wow, that was like a really cool day. Yeah.
I'm curious, what keeps you up at night as a business owner, and what also keeps you moving forward as a business owner?
Cash flow.
In the most literal sense.
Probably for both. I think, to be honest. I think obviously I'm bootstrapped too, so I'm always like staring at our runway and being like, okay, but it keeps me hustling, which is also a really good thing. But I'm always trying to make sure that we're responding to the needs. Our North Star, and the question that I tell my team always that we have to ask before we make any decision, anything we do, does this meaningfully increase access for women in tech? Does this meaningfully increase the number of women in tech or access to it? And so I think we continuously have to ask ourselves that when we're building things, when we're saying yes to speaking engagements, when we're signing clients, like whatever that is. I think that that's something that I'm often, in terms of steering this ship, wondering, are we still doing this? Are we like following the right things? And I do love, it was my birthday last week, and
happy belated.
Thank you.
Amazing.
My team is so cute. They came into Slack and they're like, everyone share what they love about April today. And so they were all listing things. And 3 of them had said that one of their favorite things about me is that I genuinely care about the company having an impact on the world. And I love that the employees feel that way too.
Right.
Because I think that that's like how we should
It's
be.
embedded.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Like, do we have an impact? Are we actually moving the dial? Some days it feels very slow. And then there's days where I like open up the news and I'm like, we're not doing anything in this world. Like, we
what
are
does it all
fighting.
mean? What's the
like,
point?
Oh my God, we're not doing anything. When you see some of the things that we've been seeing on the news recently, it just seems so hopeless. But then again, you hear stories. I'm like sitting in that concert last night, listening to that woman tell me about the impact that going to a toast event had on her career. And I'm like, oh, we're doing it. We're still doing it. Yeah.
I remember one of the kind of most memorable interviews I had at the very beginning of my career. I remember talking to someone about how you make an impact when you feel like everything going on in the world just feels so out of control, and like and I remember him saying, like, when you feel like you don't have any control and the world's spinning out of control, the best way for people to feel like and make an impact is just with the people that are within arm's reach.
Yes.
And then that has a ripple effect.
Yes.
Yeah. And that has stuck with me for a long time, because I'm like, okay, that also gives you a sense of, or a feeling of control too, because everything just seems like it's spinning out.
Yep. Even with our kids.
Yeah.
Right? Like our kids or our employees, like just like starting, like go to your local community. Like however, as localized as you can, especially again, when you like look at things, like if you zoom out, it's pretty shitty now. It's pretty shitty. And so I think it's a hard balance for me as a founder too. I feel as though, like last year I hit quite a bit of a burnout in the fall. It was definitely, it was the year of the snake, and like everyone was shedding.
Was that your year?
It was it was like the Chinese year of the snake, right?
Yeah,
and then February 17th we go to year of the horse, I think. But oh my God, did I shed?
Right.
And then I think my nervous system was on adrenaline pumping until probably September, just trying to keep my head above the water. And then by October, I was like, I actually had a panic attack. I hadn't had one in years and years. And I had one on vacation with my husband. We weren't doing anything. We were just like reading books for days. And my psychologist after was like, oh yeah, because you were like in a safe place with your safe person. And like finally your body
caught up to you.
Totally. Your body did. And it made me recognize that I need to implement, instead of being like, go, 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 stop, especially with all the things happening in the world right now, I need to implement that into my day to day. Whether that's like me slowing down in the morning to even just listen to music and meditate, or whatever that means to you. I think we all need to be ensuring that we're taking care of ourselves, because we also weren't meant to ingest this much information either. We're ingesting, one of my board members said it, 20,000 times more information than our grandparents did.
Wow.
On the daily. 20,000 times more than they did.
And that information also is, a lot of it is just
slop.
Slop and not like valuable or not real even.
Oh, God. And it's not valuable.
Yeah.
So I've been seeing this trend online. Tell me if you've seen it too, where it's like, I need to create more than I consume. Have you seen that?
I have not seen that one yet.
So one of my employees was telling me about it, and I'm stealing it. Shout out to Natasha.
Okay.
But I love that. She's like, this year I want to create more than I consume. And I'm actually going to follow that too. So I actually removed like news off of my phone, like the notifications, I put them in a different place. So I read the news often before I go to bed. I know it's not great. Not the best time to do it, but I will put pockets of time to do these things rather than this constant, because it's like you're walking meeting to meeting, you scroll. It's like you're cooking a bit, then you like scroll. Then
there's no off.
No.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it. I have a 14-year-old. And so I'm watching this like addiction, this phone addiction come over him. And we've been having a lot of conversations around it, because I'm like, it's not your fault. I put all these time limits on his phone. He's like, I want more time. I'm like, you don't need, like the phones are built to do that to us too, to feed us this like never ending feed of information. We actually shouldn't be ingesting it as much as we are.
Yeah, just breaking habits, right? Just as we wrap up here, as companies, companies that want to do better and build better, what do you think is like a metric internally that every CEO or founder should be tracking when it comes to equity and talent that most aren't? Is there one that's not obvious? Or
well, it's like engagement surveys. How does your current team feel? How many people do you know that are working in shitty jobs, right? And they're like, oh, the company doesn't care. But we all know, we're talking about it. We're like, oh, that team's not good or that leader's not good. And I feel whenever we do these engagement surveys inside of organizations, you can look at all the metrics that you have this many people in this area or you hit these diversity targets, but that belonging and inclusion piece happens, and that's where you actually get a company that thrives, is when people are really happy in their roles.
Yeah.
And so when you look at Google did research called Project Aristotle. They did it in 2016, and they were looking at the key components of a high performing team, and they found the number one thing was psychological safety. Now, I know not everyone can get that. That's quite a privilege to have that. But at the same time, satisfaction in your role plays such a big piece in how people are going to perform. And I think satisfaction for us, especially, now in this world that we live in, is all these different measurements of the people you work with, the flexibility you have in your role, the pay that you've got. And I don't think we actually have conversations with employees enough in terms of like their satisfaction in the role. So for all the people that put flashy D&I pages on, I'm like, that's great, but I would love to hear from the people that work there.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Looking ahead, what excites you the most about Toast, about your own journey too, like your own personal journey? Like what's your personal and your professional North Star right now?
Yeah, I think I am the most confident I've ever been in my whole life. This feels like really good. I'm just stepping into 39. I'll be 40 next January. And that feels really good. I feel really confident in who I am, my ability to lead this company, and to have an impact, which has been really great. And so I think my North Star right now is just continuously ensuring I'm like standing on solid ground, have really good boundaries, and continue to speak to myself in a really positive manner. And then I think for Toast, again, we have a tech build coming out this year, which I'm very excited about, a different way to engage organizations, and it's going to include that employee survey, which I was chatting about, because I think that's a really good way to see a workplace, like a health score, if you will. Yeah. And then we'll be able to actually, definitely, and then we'll be able to measure it against other similar organizations. So you'll see how you compare a market, which I think is
interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. A little tease there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
April, I'm so happy that you were able to come in today and be in Toronto as well, and just
in the snow,
talking about just all the incredible work. And it's again such a long time coming, and I'm so glad that we could have this chat in person over like instead of Zoom or
anything. Yes.
And I just I just love everything that you're doing, and if there's anything that we can do to continue to help just amplify your work.
Of course, we'll just get people to go to trytoast.ca and check 100%. Out the work we're doing.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Lance.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to this episode of Mission Critical. If you enjoyed our discussion, make sure to hit like below and subscribe for more updates from our show. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and go make something happen. We'll see you on the next episode.